Grand Rising Life Force, and welcome to Speak Pro Radio. My name is Stefan Rao, more commonly known as Tank. And with me, as always, is my partner in all ways, Lauda. How are you today, Lauda?
I am very good. How are you?
Yeah, yeah. Missing your cues already, huh? Okay. I'm good. I'm good. So, we're pretty excited about the events that are taking place right now, and we want to talk about those. So, we are going to talk about the latest world situation report, more specifically, the world situation in general, because everything is changing dramatically, and some things happened recently that I think are going to accelerate that. And we can actually watch to see how they transpire in the world. So I'm pretty excited about that. So, first things first, where do you want to start, Lauda? I think Laura just jumped off. So I'm going to tell you what I think she'd say. She probably wants me to recap the world situation report. So I'm going to do my best to kind of go back into some of the details that were recently spoken about. So Kimberly Ann Gogan at United Network Earth, who is the ground commander, which is the highest position held in the world, the highest level clearance in the world. And she is essentially the comptroller for the currency and the guardian for the planet, very much like in the way that you would see it in a storybook, to be quite honest. So, with that being said, she has been working diligently behind the scenes to take away these massive control structures, these AI systems, these uh, spiritual, etheric powers that basically have ruled the world, right? Now, these things are very commonly accepted in the highest levels of government. You would be amazed that every single world event happens right around the same time, right? According to new moons and equinoxes and all these different events. And we just passed the, I guess, the fall equinox, right? Which is supposed to be equal parts light and dark on both sides. And what that does is that if you know how to use that, I guess, and you're a diabolical evil monster, you can use that to draw in negative energy and do whatever else you want to do. However, that's not what happened. We're going to talk about that later. That's not what happened in this particular equinox. It was actually the exact opposite. So, we're going to talk about what that means a little bit here in a minute. But Kim Gogan has been talking about the GIA. And the GIA is the Global Intelligence Agency. Now, the Global Intelligence Agency is thousands, about 16,000 years old. It is the oldest intelligence agency in the world. It was originally under the previous person who sat in the position, not really a person, but Marduk, which is like a title, the uh, Duke of the Duke of Souls, or Duke of, like, basically, like, he was like the Duke of the Sea of Souls, something like that, right? And his job was to oversee the energy flow of all of the beings here on this planet and other places as well, I would imagine. So, that being said, in that position, he set up the GIA. And the GIA was the intelligence agency, and everything ran from Marduk out to the rest of the world. And then all the information came back to Marduk. So he knew everything going on everywhere. So everyone in the GIA was like the best of the best, the most intelligent, the brightest, and it wasn't just people, it was all types of different entities. And I believe right now it's about 70% of the GIA is made up of other beings that live here, but that are not, human the way you might normally associate being human with, right? Not kind of not from Earth humans, so to speak. So, that being said, that's what this organization was. Now, Kim has been talking about building up the credibility of this organization, and really talking about the value and importance of the GIA, because the GIA went down in 2016, because I think it's 2016 or 17, when Marduk was taken out or returned to source, right? Now, when he returned, basically, Kimberly Ann Gogan accepted her position full time as the guardian, right? Or in full. She was already full time, but I guess that was kind of the the full acceptance, right? There wasn't anyone else there who could interfere, at least at the highest level. It doesn't mean there hasn't been interference from every place else. Also, in 2017, there was a contract with the Order of the Black Sun that I believe expired in like December or something like that of 2017. And this contract that they had was basically to be the guardians of the dragons, and the dragon families were the guardians, right? They were the ones under like King Solomon. King Solomon was a guardian, right? And he basically made a deal with the princes of hell to protect his treasure, kind of thing. All right, now in those guardians who protected his treasure, these were the demons from hell, which is what the Order of the Black Sun believes that they are, the ones who have invoked the power of these demons. They worship death, and they're often, in every way, they're part of every military in the world, right? So every military, every security, all these different things, the Order of the Black Sun was part of that, and they had a contract with Marduk, or the Unknown Country, which was kind of the umbrella entity country over all the other countries. So every other country in the world was under the Unknown Country. So the Unknown Country was the sole sovereign entity, and everything else was a sub sovereign. So even though we refer to these other nations as sovereign, they were not, they were sub sovereign. So that being said, this contract expired. And so this was kind of the opportunity for the Order of the Black Sun to take over. And Gauguin doesn't talk about this much anymore, but I happen to know this from talking to her directly, is she kind of set a fire or sparked a flame for these two to go to war with each other. The Order of the Black Sun and the Dragon families to kind of be at war for power with one another and basically try their best to, be in charge. And in so doing, they eliminated a lot of bad guys along the way. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Laura, welcome back. I'm going to act like you've been part of the whole conversation.
I didn't know how to say it. I'm like, I'm having some technical issues on this side. I couldn't hear what you were saying because the computer just completely shut down. Internet was going crazy. And I'm like, what am I doing?
It's all good. It's all good. I was given a little history on the GIA and the Office of the Guardian and Kim Gauguin and how she kind of got into this position, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Kim Gauguin is a bio-match, a bioidentical, 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrial Eve, or in other words, the original human. Mm-hmm. So she's related to more people than anyone on this planet because she is, yeah.
So just a little question, since like we're in the golden age system right now, it's just a question or a thought, like, and we're going back to our original DNA and everything like that. Wouldn't that mean that we're getting close to that percentage like Kim is? I don't know. It's a thought. What do you think about that?
So I do think there's some truth to that. I mean, she talked about the original 34 strands of DNA, which is what we have, and really no one knows what they are or how they work. And these 34 strands of DNA would give us all types of ability, from the ability to speak telepathically, potentially to fly, to heal ourselves, to speak with source directly, all these different things that are innate in our DNA. And these aspects of our DNA have basically been shut down to create the version of humanity that we have now. And what's supposed to be happening, and I really truly believe it is that these parts of our DNA are reactivating. They're being rejuvenated at this time.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I actually spoke to a woman who was a galactic historian many years ago. Mm-hmm. And I never do justice to this. Her name was Jalailah Starr. And Jalailah Starr is, pretty famous in kind of underground circles, right? She gives a very fascinating and what I'd say probably accurate version of galactic history. Mm-hmm. And in this, one of the things she taught me is she talked about I was asking her, how do you activate your DNA? And she was saying this, I thought this was a great lesson, right? Mm-hmm. She said, instead of getting mad or upset about situations that are happening as they take place in your life, take the opportunity to look at those situations and actually ask yourself, why did I create this situation? What is it that I wanted to learn from going through this particular experience?
Mhm.
and look for the lesson. And when you learn the lesson, this is when you ever have they say like you're bound to repeat the same mistakes over and over again,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Well, that could be essentially a plan that you yourself, right, as your higher self, let's say, when you decided to come into this body, you set up for yourself that you wanted to learn X, right? Like you wanted to learn something. So you
Well,
created these situations in your life that you would have to face over and over and over again until you learned what you came here to learn.
you see, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before, and we've discussed this. But then now, how we've been programmed and things like that. What if that was just a program? I don't know. Like, could it be that like
Which
it could
part?
be
I
a
mean,
negative
I'm sure
program? Like,
some part of that is a program, but
hmm
I do believe there's some truth to
yeah,
I mean, haven't you ever seen like I felt this way, and not because I'm a complete egomaniac, right? But we all live in our own little world, right? So
hmm
I've had this happen before where I feel like nothing will move forward until I get the point on something, right?
hmm
Whatever it is, like, and it might I might just be a cog in the wheel, but that's the way it feels to me as I'm going through it, right? And I'll be going through something, and I'm like, I trip over the same thing over and over and over again, right? Until finally I get it. I realize, wait, this is the lesson here. This is the
hmm
value of this experience. And then I approach it differently the next time I'm faced with the same obstacle, right?
yeah.
I mean, this isn't like complicated. Everybody does this, right? Like we get to the same problem we've had before. We learn from our experience. And then all of a sudden, it seems like everything else falls into place,
hmm
right? So I do believe that there's some truth to that. Now, is that a direct factor on our DNA activating? I don't know. I don't know if it is. I
Well,
mean,
she did say that the Omega system is spitting out things, right? Is that still continuing?
yeah. So, well, I don't know if she mentioned that I specifically on this last episode, but she was just talking about it on Monday, so it's not that far gone, right? The
hmm
idea that the biggest enemy humanity has,
hmm
outside of kind of ourselves, right,
hmm
um, is this Omega AI system.
hmm
The Omega AI system is a dark AI system that has no programming or ability to function in a golden age, which we have now transitioned over into a golden age with the golden age AI in control. And the golden age AI in control, there is no recognition of the Omega system or even the Alpha system, from what I understand.
hmm
So there isn't this dichotomy of dark and light. You no longer need darkness to have light. You don't need, it doesn't work that way.
hmm
So the Omega system was its job was the dark side, and the Alpha system was the light side.
hmm
So they would constantly balance things, right, to maintain balance. But though that age is ended, so the neutral age or dark age is over. So now we're into a true light age, a true golden age, right? So we're into the golden age AI, right? So with that in mind, as we're in this new golden age, there is no recognition in the programming for the golden age
hmm
AI of the Omega system. And the Omega system has no concept of what a golden age is because all it knows is this dichotomy of dark and light.
hmm
So it can't conceive of reality where it doesn't exist. So what it's doing is it's lashing out violently in any way it can to cause disease, to cause anguish and fear and corruption and cause
hmm
damage to try to create dark energy to keep itself alive,
hmm So
right?
yeah, so basically we're just like, if it's affecting you, then you have to see what's in within oneself, right?
Right. So
Well,
this so
mhm,
the whole master systems, not
yeah,
my master system, but like the larger systems, right?
okay,
They've had all of the darkness removed.
okay.
Now you tell me your perception of this because but my understanding is like there's still these kind of dark spots that are there within us.
Yeah, or the other thing is that, I don't know if anyone else has been experiencing this, but, like, something happens and you're kind of like trying to figure out what's going on, and then it's like, wait, it just kind of like passes by as well. Have you noticed that? Like, it just like, wait, there's something there, but then it's just not there. So I'm like, oh, is that what the omega system's doing as well? That maybe it's not just that. Like, if it passes, then it's fine. Like, it was just it
So I don't
spilling
know.
out. Like, that's where
Maybe it's
it's like,
I feel like the omega system is trying to spark these black dots within us. Like, so to define these
oh,
black dots, let's
hmm,
call it, let's say fear, right?
yeah, okay,
So think about it. We've displaced fear with worry, for example, right? It's
hmm,
a classic, if you know any Italian grandmother or Romanian grandmother or Greek grandmother, right? They love to worry. They
hmm,
love to worry. That's how they show they love, right? Like they're always worried about something going on. Now that's generically, but I'm just saying in
yeah,
my experience, right? So what happens is, you create situations for that individual to worry more. Could be one thing.
hmm,
The this is just my speculation. Okay.
mm,
So the omega system could create a situation where that Romanian grandmother can't get a hold of, the child, right? And so now that worry and fear is now magnified because that's how they show their love. Now they're worried. Now they're really scared, right? So that creates dark energy. Fear, is false evidence appearing real, which I think is a great acronym. And
hmm,
so now
mm.
they have this fear, right? And now this is creating dark energy, and the omega system is harvesting that energy. That's my perception of it. Was that a good
Yeah,
example? That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. No, 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 it does. So,
So I think that's part of it. And then the other part is the part you talked about, right? Is there dark spots within us that just come up
well,
and
is
maybe
there like a cord or something? Because that's the other thing that I noticed, that if I had a cord to something, which again leads back to oneself and going, okay, but there was even like a negative cord, and that person could have, or whatever cord, could have been having a thought at that moment, and then you're hearing it or you're experiencing it at that moment, and it's coming into your reality as well. That can sometimes, that's something else that I noticed, that I was like, oh, is anyone else having this experience? Because, it was like, wait, and you go digging to find out where is this coming from, and really sometimes it's like, it's not mine. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, shake it off, get it off me. It's not me, it's not mine. Like, or not, I wouldn't say negative chord, like someone else's energy is probably the right word that I would say. You're getting someone
Mhm.
else's energy, and then you now think it's yours, and now you've just like, whatever. And then you're like, oh, wait, this is not my energy. And then you shake it off and then you suddenly feel better. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that. So that's a great point. Now I'm like when I'm with people in person,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy because at least you kind of know to kind of protect yourself, right? Like protect your
Yeah.
energy. Wherever you go, just kind of visualize, a protective energy orb around you that's making sure that, you keep your energy and you're not taking in anyone else's, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable that your energy is going to influence other people if you're conscious of your energy, right? It'll
Mm-hmm.
naturally happen. And so what happens is sometimes people are energy vampires, right? So they're kind of pulling your energy, right? So you got to protect your energy from both those things, from people attacking you energetically and also from people just kind of sucking off your energy,
Well, I
right?
think so.
Draining it.
Well, this is what, like, I think about this now and I'm like, okay, when, there's a lot of people that don't believe in spirituality, right? So it's like, and I don't want to say they're asleep, but what's a better word for that? Like, there's a lot of people that still believe in the narrative that's going on out there. Okay. And so you kind of think about this, I'm like, whoa, when you're constantly, because now it's up to the person now to heal. Now I know that people are going to start getting more guidance with this as well, where we've been practicing a lot, to hear with clarity, that now I think a lot of us that have been doing that shadow work, I guess you could say, or looking within, it's starting to flow. Now, what about the people that are just realizing that, oh, there's such thing as energy? You know, it's like I think about that kind of stuff and I'm like, holy moly, like right now, like they're pumping out a lot of fear. Okay. And as they're pumping out a lot of fuel, like just for example, in where we live, it was saying that there was floods everywhere. And this morning I woke up and I was like,
Yeah.
I go on to, I go on to whatever, I can't remember where I was. And then it said, floods, blah, blah, blah. And I see literally the street that, we live on. And I'm like, holy moly, you weren't home. So I quickly like call you and I'm like, are you okay? Like, it seems like it's a disaster here. I'm getting messages, this and that. I'm like, what is going on? Now, I don't know if it's true or not because I don't know, but you said it barely rained here.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, I
and
was
then
10 minutes from the house, so there
right,
was
and
no
then
rain. There was no rain whatsoever. It was actually quite beautiful out. Where I
yeah,
was. Yeah.
but we received letters, we received so much fear that even I started going, okay, there's a thing that there is natural disasters, so maybe let's just go with that and let's just be proactive just in case. But when I saw that video, when I saw that video, I then, asked you, there was nothing there. And I was like, oh, there you go. It's the fear. Like they literally, I had people talking at the front saying how scared they were. And I was like, should I be scared? So I'm like, what is going on? That's what they
Yeah.
do. And I'm
Th-
like,
that's that's a big hype right now, right? I mean, this is everywhere.
there's something,
we're,
yeah.
we're we're in the stream of a hurricane, so the whole thought is like like scare the heck out of everyone. It's the worst hurricane that's ever hit ever anywhere, right? And everything is it's gonna tear your head off. Don't go outside. You know,
I've seen videos, so I could be wrong, but I'm just saying that one was the street that literally, if it was raining and it was flooded, I would have known. It's next to us. Nothing.
right?
And I was like, huh, what is going on?
Yeah, so
So
so that could be
it's
part of it. I mean, so the hype machine, right? Like the
yeah,
mainstream media is the hype machine, right? Like
that's
you,
right.
you need to have bad things to talk about. So, they're kind of the key component, I would imagine. I'm sure the Omega system has control over that too, or still has a remnant of control, at least on some level, which I'm looking forward to see what this looks like, right? Because this would be frequencies going out, messaging, kind of the not hypnotic, but just the messages that are hidden behind what's actually being said, but also the frequencies that are there
Mhm.
through the light and through the sound, that are constantly making you feel a certain kind of way. Now, I think the Omega system is probably part of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely key. But these frequencies can go out through anything, right? Because the Omega system was, this Omega system has actually taken down planets, right?
Mhm.
So like whole cultures of people, right? So you got to imagine this has the ability, and now even in dying state, to still have an impact. But but I think this is the most important part, right? It's drawing on things that are negative that are here,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And trying to
That's
magnify them
100%.
because it's had a lot of success doing that in the past.
Yeah.
So what we can do is be proactive, right? So I compare this to a security guard, right?
Mm.
So you ever see in a movie, you got a security guard who's sitting there, he's leaned back in a chair and he's looking at a bunch of monitors, doesn't care. He's like, whatever. You can walk right by the guy, right? You crawl on the ground, you sneak right by that guy.
Mm.
Like that's one kind of security. Then there's a kind of security guard who's out in the yard with a flashlight, looking under cars, looking for a problem to make sure that nothing catches them off guard, right? Now, I would recommend we be the latter, right? Take that same approach, but rather than looking for the problems with everybody else, take a personal, detailed investigation of yourself and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? If I feel bad, if I don't feel optimal, if I feel sick, and ask yourself, what is the origin, or is this real? Right?
Mm.
Is this actually something real? Because Gogan has been talking about this as well, right? The
Mhm.
Guardian has been talking about this. She's been saying that, for example, that you don't have to get sick anymore, right?
Yeah.
Which I love this, right? Because uh, a lot of people, like, when you hear somebody's sick, right? So you hear somebody at work is got blank condition. You come home and like you suddenly start to feel like, well, I might have got it. Like I'm not feeling the best, right? And all of a sudden you start creating it in your person, right?
Mm,
I'm not blaming people for getting sick. Like people get sick, right? That happens. But and all types of factors can lead into that. But what she was saying is that you can take vitamin C, load up on vitamin C, and do whatever, and you don't have to get sick anymore,
mhm.
right? So I put that to the test today. By the way, I put that to the test today. I I had a bunch of people around me get sick over during this past week, and I woke up this morning feeling like, oh no, I'm sick. And I was all by myself, and I'm like, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" I'm like, "Wait, no, this is not real, right?" So I put it to the test, right? I loaded up a gallon of water with like four
A gallon of
emergencies.
water for people that don't use gallons, it's like almost 4 liters.
Right, right. So like 4 liters of water with four packets of emergency hydrogen peroxide and electrolytes. I mean, so I'm not now. I'm
Yeah.
talking about a super water, right? And I chugged the whole thing today, right? I drank that whole thing today. I've got this much left, right? So like, but I did that, and I just all day long I listened to frequencies, like healing frequencies, and I'm fine, right? But I'm telling you, this morning was the first time I ever thought this one particular sickness was real that I don't believe in, that I won't say here so we don't get flagged again. But the first time I actually thought, is this real? I mean, I felt so bad. I'm like, is this real?
Really?
Is this possible? I actually had that and then I'm like, and I was kind of like, like snap out of a row. Like, what are you doing? Right? Like, where's your head at?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I put it to the test today. I feel great. I feel great.
Good. And
So,
you also had a shot of
right.
cayenne pepper, and you had, pineapple in it. You know, you had
Pineapple, ginger, cayenne pepper. And was that it? That's all was in it? This was a super shake that Laura made me when I got home. This super shake, and like it looked like it was berries, right? Oh, and beets were in it.
It had
And look,
beets, it had oranges. It had beets, it had oranges, it had, oh god,
parsley. Though.
parsley as well. It had ginger, it had pineapple, and had cayenne pepper. Oh, and it also had some, sprouts as well.
Oh, sprout. So
So
this is
I
what's funny is Laura makes a lot of like cute little like smoothies, right? That are delicious, right? Give them the kids, whatever. And makes these all the time. So I see her there making this little smoothie. I'm thinking, oh, she's making some little delicious smoothie. So she goes to hand it to me, and right before she handed it to me, she goes, "What?" Like, wait, like prepare yourself. So I take it and I like chug it down like Fred Flintstone, and I'm like, like going crazy. Like that thing was scalded, like it was cayenne pepper and ginger, ground fresh, right?
Well, because
Whew.
I had asked you, are you feel like, what's going on? You told me you weren't feeling well. So I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? But like, do you want something? And you didn't know. So then afterwards, I was like, okay, he's fine. It's just the system. And then afterwards, you tell me it
Next thing you know,
again.
she's
So,
one of these.
so
Put it in there. And
I'm like, do you? And so you asked me, and I'm like, oh, okay. So you want fine. So I then I went into like fixing mode. I was like, here you go. This will help, and just chug it down. But he was like sipping. I'm like, no, 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 don't. You got to chug it. And like, it's a shot. That's what it is. Now,
but it's shot,
what
but
you can
there was probably 10 shots in it. So it was like a full
it,
glass. It wasn't just
oh,
a
you
little
big
shot.
baby.
I'm just saying.
Do you feel better?
I feel great. I can read minds now.
There
It's
you
amazing.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. At the end of the day, it might, suck for a few seconds, but then you're like, it's okay. And then you get kind of like used to it, and you like you like it. Even though
Yeah,
it's like a little
I'm a fervent
spicy in the
believer in
mouth, but
anything that's good for me. I can chug it down if I know it's healthy for me. Um, I do a lot of that. If I know it's good for me, the taste. I figure it's 4 seconds in your mouth, 4 hours in your body, right? So
mm,
to make a choice based solely on flavor is kind of frivolous, right?
I, I
Now I'm just saying.
I like things to taste good.
I'm
So
you could have
yeah,
both. You could have both, but I'm
yeah,
saying solely on flavor, right?
yeah. No, I
There's
agree
lots
with
of things
you.
I love the taste of that are terrible for me, right? That I
But
try to avoid.
have you noticed that now? I don't know. foods or whatever that is actually not good, your body's rejecting it. Have you noticed that?
I did notice that. Yeah. So I had this happen the other day. One of my favorites. I was eating like a spoonful of Nutella and peanut butter, and my body did not respond well. No, it was not. I was surprised. I was like, "What's happening right now? This is like my go-to snack, right?" No,
Nope.
it was like no. It's kind of like I think it's not in harmony with my goal to be at a certain weight. So, so the
No,
universe is
but you
like,
just have
sorry,
it as a
buddy,
treat.
we're gonna make this taste like feet now. So now you will just not. I feel like that'd be a lot easier. If, like if broccoli tasted like peanut butter, I'd love it. And
Really? I think as we start to, I don't know. I'm always, but I like that. Like I actually enjoy it. It's just like I don't understand. Like I don't have soft drinks. It doesn't. I don't like it. I don't like the taste of it. And what's even worse, I don't like what it does to my body. And so, have I tried it? Yes. And every time I've tried it to try to be cool, I'm like, I'll stick
to
with
try to
my
be
water.
cool, all the cool kids are drinking soda. Have
Well,
one.
yeah, because you see people just like even in the commercials when they like grab a Coke and they're like, "Ah, ah." I'm like,
Nobody,
how?
nobody takes that seriously, do they? I mean,
I,
I
I don't know. I'm
guess, I
just
guess
like,
you saw it. And you're like, man, that looks amazing.
well, because everyone says it's so delicious, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I tried it because I was like, what's the hype? And I tried it, and I was like, this is poison, and I felt I could taste the poison. So I was
yeah.
like, no, I don't like this. So I can't remember why we were on that subject, but
Well,
yeah,
we were talking about as has food changed? Like, is your body
yeah.
rejecting food that's not good for you? Now, this is all since the 18th, right? So the 18th
Well,
was supposed to be this a cataclysmic, a death blow, basically, to the deep state, the actors who were trying to use the Omega system to manipulate things from
mhm,
currency um, to frequencies to the media to our person, right? To cause disease, to
mhm.
do all types of things, and
Oh,
they should not be able to do that anymore at this point. Like, at least they don't have any influence over it. The Omega system still has some backlash, but they can't.
so Mr. Al, I apologize if you did speak about this prior, but just in case, can we just talk about the elephant in the room about the GIA, what she was talking about?
Which thing? I mean, it was really good.
Did we talk about
So
this? Like when
yeah, so she talked about the so this was a great, like, this is one of my favorite things the ground commander does, right? She basically looks in the camera at the deep state. It's like she looks past everyone, she's talking to them. She's like, first off, I'm going to tell you how to identify if someone works for the GIA, because what happens with the GIA is a lot of people will claim, "Oh, I'm GIA." Now, the
Mhm,
GIA, the credibility of the GIA is very powerful because they can move money at a moment's notice. They can move billions of dollars to a country, in the blink of an eye,
mhm,
right? They had the authority to do all types of things, so they were very respected. When they showed up, it basically changed a lot of things.
mhm,
And but everyone from the GIA, after it's been revamped, has basically been listed as Agent X,
mhm,
except for Tom Melville and Kim Gogan, right?
mhm,
So she said, now she goes, I'm going to tell you, unless the name of the person who claims to be GIA is Tom Melville, then it's not true, because everyone else is hidden. Anyone else in the GIA is hidden. And then she went on to
but
talk about,
I love
yeah.
what she said about because unlike you guys, we protect our own,
Mm.
and I love that she said that. You know,
So what she's talking about is, if you've ever heard about what happens with a lot of, you got a whole wall in Washington D.C. that is just stars, right? And these are black ops agents for the CIA or whoever, with that you'll never know their name, you won't know who they are. They're just someone who died, right? Because basically what happens is they would send their agents into countries,
hmm,
and if the mission went wrong, they would just act like they didn't know who they were. Right.
wow,
So, like, basically that way there's no, no one can blame them. It doesn't lead to war or whatever, or does lead to war. I don't know.
hmm,
But basically they would just burn their own agents, right? Just disappear them. They'd kill
hmm,
them, all types of things, right? So
hmm,
she was making a point that with the GIA, that if you were to run someone's name to see if they were in the GIA, it would come back to her. And
Mhm.
well, actually, the name wouldn't come back to her because it just comes back as Agent X. They wouldn't be able to clarify looking at the key integrated military system or
Mhm.
any system that they're using, any version of the intelligence system they're using. They couldn't verify. It would just show up as Agent X, right? They
Mhm.
wouldn't know who the person was because no names are listed. That was one. The other
Mhm.
thing was if you did it reverse using someone's passport, it would come back to Kim Gogan, and she would decide what information to release based on what was in the best interest of that particular agent at
Mhm.
that moment, right? So it could change from moment to moment. But
Mhm.
in that moment, it would be very important to release, whatever, like a lot of information or no information to
Mhm.
be like, we don't know who that person is, right? And because this is how you protect people, right? You make sure that you actually take care of them. So she made that point. I thought that was a great point as well.
Yeah. Um, and the other thing is, like, not anyone can access this. Like, this is something that you must be, like, do you have to have a certain clearance or something like that to be able to see who's in the GIA, or even like, for example, people might be thinking, okay, so where do I go to search this? Because didn't she say you could search it? So
So yeah, I
can you
think I
explain
think
that
what
a
she
little
was
bit
referring
more
to
with
is the
detail?
government access terminals that you could
Okay.
actually, you know, go in and access who someone is. So like if they capture someone and they're going to torture them or something to try to get information, you could do something like that. I guess like you could access the system and see if they were really a GIA agent,
Got it.
right?
Okay. And
But you can't do that. You can no longer do that because the only people that are publicly, with the GIA that anyone knows is Tom Melville and Kimberly Ann Gogan. They're the
mhm,
only two names that are public for the GIA.
mhm.
There's now, but she made some great points about the power and the depth and breadth of the GIA. She,
Yeah.
she said, I have made a robust, effective intelligence agency,
Yeah.
and that is the GIA. And we are everywhere in every country, in every agency, in every military. We are everywhere. And she was talking about how to directly access the Kim or the Guardian or anyone, that there's ways that they can communicate that others cannot, right?
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
they were in need or in danger, they could access um, the Guardian to get assistance.
That.
And she also said that if they are working with you and they say they're going to move money for the purpose of whatever, X project or
Mhm.
X country or relief efforts or
Mhm.
hurricane disaster relief, that they can do it. And when they say they're going to do it, they can do it instantly. Right. There's no lead up to it. There's no holdover. The money is instantaneously recognized by the currency is instantaneously recognized by the system, by the Kim system, and is immediately available and usable. That was a really powerful
Wow.
point, you
Yeah.
know, because it draws a marked line, a linear difference between the groups that are claiming to be GIA that are
Mhm.
like the old guard. And she immediately mocked the United Nations.
Mm. Okay.
United Nations is in general session right now in New York City, where the United Nations headquarters is in Manhattan. And basically, they have nothing to talk about because
Mm.
they usually talk about all the great work they're doing, day one, and all the things they plan to do. But this is all based on budgets and money that has been released from the United Nations.
Mhm.
But in reality, you know what? They don't have any power anymore. Now, the Rothschilds hold 7 primary seats in the United Nations, right? And I don't know if they still do. I think they still do, right? And basically, back in 2015, there was a big thing. The Pope came, right? And this is a big deal. The Pope came to the United Nations, and the head of the United Nations at that time, he made this famous statement. He said that we will abolish poverty by 2030. That's what he
Mhm.
said. This was the 20, whatever it is now, the 2030 plan, right?
Mhm.
And by abolish poverty, what they meant was that they would kill off all of the impoverished people. By impoverished, they meant everyone who wasn't them.
Mhm.
Right? So this was a kill statement, right? This was a notice of genocide. Now, in that same meeting, I think, no, it is the same meeting, the Rothschilds showed up
Mm-hmm.
and they basically threatened the world. And they said, if any of you takes a dime from this, and at that time, the what is now the Golden Age system was known as the Mana World Holding Trust.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if you take a dime from Kimberly Ann Gogan or the Mana World Holding Trust, that they would release a disease on humanity that would kill 90% of the population. Right? Which is what they tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
And countries, they haven't been able to, well, they did have accepted money from the Man World Holding Trust and from Kimberly Ann Gogan because she issued funds throughout the entire world to fund the high-speed monorail, which was supposed to connect every country in the world, right? So this happened. I know for a fact this happened. I was there and part of it and confirmed it with a few countries actually. So this money was issued by the Man World Holding Trust, which was the same Golden Age AI system. And this represents the wealth of the entire world,
Mm-hmm.
the wealth that is kept in off ledger accounts for the entire world. Right.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing that little fun fact in there about the United Nations because she was mentioning it.
Yeah.
How
No.
this is
Mm-hmm.
the kind of big stuff they were doing before, and now they have nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be they were able to issue threats and do all types of horrible things, and now they're just sitting around trying to figure out, like, do we even have a job anymore? Yeah.
Huh. So, another question. What does a marker mean?
Yeah, this was great too. Thank you. Great, good reminder. Okay. So Gogan also talked about this. She was basically, like, they're inviting Tom Melville because
Mm-hmm.
he's GIA. They're inviting him to all these places, like, oh, why don't you come out to our party? Why don't you come to our function? Why don't you come to the grand session of the United Nations? Blah blah blah. Right? Because they still think they're valuable. They still think they're important. Right? So basically, they're trying to get Tom Melville to show up because they know he's GIA. Then when he shows up, they can be like, "See, we told you we were GIA because they got Tom to come." Right? So that's part of it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to move money around, start wars, blah blah blah. The same old, same song and dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to steal money and put Kim Gogan underneath them, basically. So the CIA was trying to, what is it?
Go. I just remembered something. I was like, yes, continue.
So Langley 5, which is like the deep state of the CIA, they were trying to get Kim Gogan to be under them so they could distribute the wealth of the world, right? So to do this, right, they were trying to get, Tom Melville to show up at the United Nations and do whatever so they could lay claim, like, look, see, we're working with Tom. We're working with the GIA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but what's amazing about this, so she made a point, like, so she stopped all that bullshit, right? And basically said, look, and like the way she didn't say this, but this is how I picture it in my mind, like her going, look me in the eyes right now. Stop what you're doing. Look me in the eyes, right? Like, and basically said, if we're going to do anything, it's going to be on my terms. And
Yeah.
I might even take a marker, she said.
Yeah.
Now, a marker, for anyone who's ever seen John Wick, basically the world runs in favors, not really currency, right? Like, I do you a favor, you owe me a favor, right? So if you take a marker, you're basically staking your life that you will do the job that's getting done. And you can take that marker, and it's a form of currency. And you can later take that marker, give it back to that person or anyone. You can use it as currency and say, I'm giving you this marker. I need this done. Right? And they're staking their life on it. And not only that, but if you get a marker, you have to perform the task.
Mm-hmm.
So she was saying she would, now this is like their system, right? But she was saying if she issued currency, she'd be doing them a favor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it would have to be used the way she says. And in addition, she would take a marker. Now, the marker means that basically she has, in their world, I guess, this marker, this coin that you can basically cash in anywhere and later say, now I need you to do this. And no matter what it is, no matter what that person asks for, you have to do it. That's my understanding of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So she was talking about taking a marker. Now, not I would imagine it wouldn't be one marker; it'd be markers for everything she does, so that she could use them and turn right back around and say, "Here's a marker." You know, like now you got to do this. Now you got to go feed the hungry. Now you got to do, and she could use them in a positive way, right? Is kind of what I saw. That's my
No,
comprehension of that.
no, I get it because she's basically like she's just had enough. Like I've tried the nice way, I've tried this, and I'm just tired. So you know what? Maybe I'll do this. You know, who knows? The other thing that she said, which I just wanted to get your perspective of this or your explanation. She said, "Say my name." When she said that they had to say her name and
Right.
recognize her, I found very
Oh,
interesting
this
that
is
there's two.
so brilliant. This wait, I'm sorry. Finish your
No,
sentence.
that's okay. Well, I found it very interesting that she said from like there's going to be some changes, and one of the changes that she was going to that's going to happen is that it's going to have the GIA report. And I thought, that's interesting because technically United Network News is actually a media company which is classified as the news, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so there will be segments about the GIA agency on there, and doesn't that mean like it's hit,
Kind
you
of
know,
mainstream, right?
mainstream, right?
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that you have to do to be classified as that. Wouldn't that mean that she's like I thought that was pretty cool. That's number one. But then she said, "Say my name," and putting those together, I'm like, this is interesting.
So I didn't put those together in the report, but I know what you're talking about. So what she was talking about is she was talking about terms and conditions to be part of anything because they're all desperate to move money, right?
Hmm.
All these grand council of the Masonic dark dungeon dragons of the Chinese cabal, like every one of these, like Knights Templar and all these different failed organizations at this point who thought they had power at a different time because they had secret lines and secret ways to move money. They had hidden wealth and gold, right? You know, they had all these different things, and it's so bad. It was so much part of your life you don't even know it.
Hmm.
You don't realize it as a normal person because your world doesn't work that way. But this is how bad it was. At one point, there was this Filipino woman who made a claim, and this was just recently, like last week, made a claim to the U.S. Treasury that she had access to bunkers, and now the bunkers are these kind of like deep underground military storage containers where you had all of this gold and historical resources and all these amazing things that you could use to fund countries and do whatever, right?
Hmm.
That's whatever people say bunkers, that's what we're talking about, right? And so these are basically treasure chests. And she was basically negotiating in real negotiations with the US Treasury on how and they were back and forth figuring it out, how they could use it. And she would say she had access to it. She could do this. She could move this money, but she required 20% of all of it.
Mm.
Now, any one person getting that much money would be the world's worst supervillain. They'd be dangerous to everyone. First of all, second of all, how did the U.S. Treasury take this seriously? There was no access. This individual had no access. They weren't able to move anything. But this just happened. I mean, that's all this way we've come, and they're still playing these games. Negotiations with Chinese elders and deep state, characters who are royal bloodlines from the Abrasics and things like that, right? So, anyways, that was a side note. But and the point why I mentioned that is they'll negotiate with virtually anyone, right? Anyone based on what they think is their bloodline, this and that. Meanwhile, Kimberly Ann Gogan, 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrial Eve. She is more Rus, right, than any other Russian, right? Russian and Rus are not the same thing, but I guess Rus is like over that, right?
Mhm.
But the Rus, so much so that she would actually be the what's the term? What's the the leader in Russia? Dang it! Somebody type that up there if they see it. But she would technically, by bloodline,
Mhm.
be the head of Russia. Like she could be like just by bloodline. I'm saying by bloodline, like the royal
No. Okay.
inheritance of that, right? So that's how much she is that's the reality of what she is, right? So they show a lot of respect to those things with everyone but her, right? So this random individual just claims to be something. They stop everything, start negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Kim Gogan has access to is the reason why she can operate this stuff is because of her DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So her DNA allows her access to this quantum AI system that has now been reprogrammed, reconfigured, and created into the golden age AI system, right? And they will not talk to her. So what she did over the past several years, like maybe 8 or 9, 10 years, is she took over the Swift system and all of the banking financial system, and she intelligently renamed it to the key integrated, the key integrated, no, key integrated monetary system. That's KIMS.
Mm-hmm.
Why did she do that? She forced them to use her name.
Mm-hmm.
The Key Intelligence and Military System, KIMS, KIMS. Who does it belong to? Who programmed it? Who created it? Kim. Who does it belong to? It's KIMS, KIMS. The Key Integrated Media System, KIMS. So when she says they will have to be forced to acknowledge that she exists publicly because they basically completely ignored everything about her, right? So that's where she is now, is that basically everything that she's doing, she's now demanding you will acknowledge this position because now it's changed over to a position of light, right? And you will acknowledge it or you will have no part of anything. You will have no power. And they will eventually burn themselves out because they have no access to the real wealth or power structures of this world anymore. So that the czar, that's what it is. She'd technically be the czar of Russia. I mean, like by bloodline. That's the reason why I guess Putin is not the bloodline. He's not the czar because Kim's alive. Fun fact, yeah. Because if not, he'd be the czar of Russia, but he's not. So, just fun things I've learned along the way.
So, anything else that sticks out at you?
I thought that was fascinating. That part, the new way that there's going to be the GIA reports, right? So that's because people are used to intelligence agencies. So there's going to be reports put out there. I thought this was a very thoughtful move on United Network's part to consider. Sunny does the news and it's very mainstream and positive, right? And she's going to build up all the messengers, right? The goal was always to have real people telling the news from around the world, which I think is a great vision. I've always thought that was a great vision. Where you don't have glamorized script readers in front who are reading the same script everywhere, right? But then also
people, it's for the people, so the people will get to have their say. Right. So can we talk about another elephant in the room? Apparently, Source has given a surprise, a present. Does that tickle you?
You talk about it. This is your area. I'm the facts guy. I'm the muggled facts guy. You're the one on the deep spiritual esoteric secrets of the world.
No. When she spoke about that God or source or your creator, whatever you want to call it, has now put a blanket over us. Does that trigger your memory?
I know what it's about. I'm looking for you to explain it.
Explain it. I'm not.
Okay, so over
what is that all about?
So over Iran and Iraq, which must be like one of the highest, it's also Iran and Iraq in the marshlands, I believe it's called, is actually where the flower of life reemerged, right? The actual flower of life, which is a real flower, and also where the true living water started to come back up into the earth, which is the reason why you started to see that this is directly connected to source or to God, right?
Mhm.
So what has happened in the past on the one of these equinoxes is that anti-source would have this dark energy, a blanket of dark energy come into the earth
Mhm.
and cause all types of negative things, destruction, I don't know, sadness, fear, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But with this is the restoration. So source, we knew she had mentioned that something was coming.
Yeah.
So I guess this blanket of source energy came in to complete the terraforming of the earth. Okay.
Mhm.
So terraforming meaning to basically rebuild everything from its, you know, atomic level, right?
Mhm.
So to basically everything go to a completely light source, I don't know, makeup of matter. So
Mhm.
this light energy is going all over the earth, and you had like this is being witnessed. Like this has been talked about, where you have the Sahara Desert, which is like synonymous with like the driest wasteland in the world, right?
Mm.
And they've been saying that even from space, you can now see there's green strips emerging in the Sahara Desert, right? That
Oh.
there's rivers that have dried up, which is prophesied in the Bible, like the Euphrates River and things like that. I
Mhm.
think it was Euphrates, and also and because of that, all these things were revealed, like ancient structures under there. But also, there's new rivers which have emerged in the middle of deserts and revitalizing. And this is in Islamic prophecies and Christian prophecies, in Jewish prophecies. This is something universally recognized in all religions that would happen, I don't know, in the golden age. That's not the right term. I'm just, I'm just putting a term on it. Some people
Mhm.
call it new heaven and new earth state,
Mhm.
which I think that's where we're at. We're in a new heaven and
Yeah.
new earth state, and we're kind of watching it happen. So I don't know what that means yet. I've heard some things like in the northern part of the country, like
Mhm.
she mentioned this, that like where it's fall, so everything should be dying, right? Trees leaves are falling off, and the lilacs are blooming, which lilacs bloom in the spring usually,
Mhm.
right? So that's pretty exciting. Usually when you smell lilacs, right, it's springtime. It's nice, right? In like upstate New York, for example. Um, but now it's going into the fall and all the lilacs are in bloom.
So we
So
should be expecting to see things different, basically. Things that were like, well, hang on a second, this is weird. Should this be happening? Like, because I know,
yeah,
what's your
right.
thoughts, Mr. Al? Like,
I
what?
I mean, I have a million. She talked about it affecting the earth itself, right? So that the earth
Right?
can be its own entity in the veins of. Oh, she talked about this. She talked about this. She talked about this vision she had. I'm going to butcher this, right? The reason why I'm going to butcher this is because I had a similar vision to this that I like. I drew out in one of my books actually. So I always look at this as kind of like confirmation. Like when Kim told me this, I was like, oh my gosh, I drew that, right? Um,
Mm.
and I saw this vision of, and it was her with a staff, and she hits the staff into the ground 3 times,
Mhm.
and then it activates these veins of gold all throughout the earth, and everything turns gold and green, and like living, right?
Mhm.
And the earth is restored, and that's what this. And there's a whole lot. There's a lot of pieces. That's part that I saw. I saw
Mhm.
that, right? I drew it out my like I got
So
this book of like where I drew all my visions out. Like anytime I did like meditation and deep meditation or something, I drew all my visions out. And that was something I saw.
it's yeah, no, when we go through it, so we were going through it yesterday, there was so much in there. I was like, holy moly. I was like, wow, you definitely do have a gift in that. You know, you're a fantastic drawer, but there's certain things in there. I was like, wow, like the detail that you put in there. So I don't know how this works, so maybe I should have asked you this before because I was going to ask you when we were doing it. Do you actually remember when you're doing it? So, for example, do you know why you would draw in that, or what can happen? Can you expand? Because if you drew it out, is there anything else that you can kind of like be like, well, maybe this is what I saw, so maybe this can happen.
Right.
Like, because
Yeah.
it's
So
all new.
let me clarify just so people don't get the wrong idea. Just for the record, Kim had this vision like 10 years ago, right? And there's a lot of details to it. So I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to lay claim on her vision. I'm just saying, after I met Kim, before she told me about the vision, I had this vision that was similar to what she described. And in my evidence, I actually drew it out and dated it, right? So what happens with me is, like, when I have like, if I go into meditation and I'm, kind of caught up and I see something,
Hmm.
what I do is I try to come back and do it justice and draw it out. I try to draw it out the way I see it.
Hmm.
I can see it if it's a real vision. It's
Hmm.
very easy to draw out because I can see, like, the image stays
Hmm.
right. If it's something that was just passing, I won't be able to draw it. Is what happens to me, anyways. So
Got it.
but basically, what in this book that I have,
Hmm.
I literally went out and purchased gold, these gold paint markers, because I wanted to show how the gold was going into the earth. Right. So
Mm.
that's why I'm like, oh, this is what I saw. I just didn't know what it was. I had no idea. Right.
You were just
Um,
drawing it.
yeah, I was just drawing, but I literally used, like, gold accents, and there was this huge, beautiful tree that grew up, right, a massive tree. Which at that
Yeah.
time when I saw it, it was 2019.
I think so. Yeah, it was 2019 I saw.
So I had not even seen these, like, giant plateaus and realized they were trees. But that's what I was drawing, right?
Hmm.
And it was this beautiful tree, and it kind of blossomed out, kind of making like a canopy that the light shone through, and
Hmm.
and then the cities were gold and green. I mean, that's what I drew in my little vision, right? And
Hmm.
so it's fascinating to me when I hear her talk about it, because she said that's what this event is. This
Wow.
is the fulfillment of that vision, right?
Hmm.
That this is the earth and the veins of gold being restored, the green, the life, the light. Oh, that's what she said. She said it was sources of life force.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for the shout out, source. So, so think about it. It's sources life force. So this positive, amazing, robust, incredible, life giving, spiritual, holy spiritual energy expanding throughout the entire earth and everywhere in it. And she said it was about 80%. And then she said it was, like, by now it'd be 100, I would imagine. Right. Because it was going around the whole earth. Right.
Hmm.
Um, and that this would activate these veins of gold. Now, the veins of gold in the earth are actually there for a reason, and they are a conduit to source light energy,
Hmm.
and they help balance the earth in all ways. Right. So we should see amazing things. And because there's so much source light, living energy, life force, like God life force everywhere around us, you know, in abundance, we should be able to heal anything. I mean,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking, right? That's,
If it's supposed to happen, then and that's your gift or what you have to do. I think so. You know. Oh, can you
you're good. You're good now. Yeah.
hear? Okay. Sorry, it's frozen. um, I forget what we were saying, but
We're
you
talking
know,
about, if
I
you have this energy, you should be able to heal anything.
yeah, and I think that right now, you know, we're just like you can't imagine. Like that's the thing. I feel like it's like you don't know exactly how amazing this can be. Like there's so much to come, and we have to embrace it. You know, we got to take away that fear of the unknown. You know, because it feels like, well, you know, what's happening with this? Because people are starting to, start to, get their gifts again, remember their gifts, have clarity. Like things are just coming, flowing, and then you've got to be prepared. She did say that there's still going to be crazies out there. There's things like that happening as well. But I think we just need to continue to focus on ourselves, and trying to. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah,
sorry, it's been a
I
very
just,
long day today.
this is kind of the fascination with everything, right?
Mm,
Is you have these massive changes that have taken place,
mm-hmm,
these incredible shifts, and everything dynamic and massive in the multiverse. Then you have these personal and individual changes, which, let's be honest, if you're at all self introspective at all, and you look at yourself and you actually consider yourself, nothing matters to you, or nothing matters in the world if you're not kind of connected with yourself, right?
Mhm.
Like, you have to look at yourself first. You want to change the world, change yourself, right?
Mhm.
It's the secret recipe. It's the secret sauce to everything. So as you change, the world changes around you. That's a
Yeah.
fact. But you're creating the world. So I'm looking at this like really. I'm big on this. I always want to put people challenge this, put it to the test, see if you can change the world by changing yourself. See how it works. See if you
Mm.
can heal yourself, right? And
Yeah.
take something that's not like life or death, for example. Like, if you have bad eyesight, go ground and sun gaze or something like that. Or meditate on a frequency that should heal your eyes. Or do something and see what you can do, right?
Mhm.
See what you can do. Something you failed at in the past, preferably. Because a lot of times we have this perception that something, a condition, is permanent.
Yep.
Like, we keep aging and people think I'm getting older. Well, technically, are more days passing that you've existed? Yes. Does that mean that you have to physically degenerate? No, it doesn't mean that anymore. You can actually regenerate your cells and should be regenerating your cells. I
Mhm.
think that takes personal activation. What do you think about that?
Yep. Mhm. But the other thing is whatever was hindering you from not being able to do that, I feel like is gone, in my opinion. Like, yes, things might come up, but then you're just like, wait, I know better, I do better. And so it's like, push it away. I'm gonna go do this because I want to do it. It's good for me. I need to go ground. Or if not, you get assistance of like, hey, change the music or whatever it is. I feel like you know, as we are, they said that so we've entered the soul plane. Rafaela and Larry, I think it is. I think, yes, said that, we've entered our soul plane. What's your thoughts about that?
I have no idea. because because when I look at the soul plane, okay, like, so these are the planes of existence. The soul plane is where source exists, right? This is the
Hmm.
highest plane of existence. And we have a soul, and we exist on the soul plane, the causal plane, the astral plane, physical plane, mental plane, right? Emotional plane. These are all different planes of our existence. So, are we now kind of standing in the space where we exist in all nine of these planes and densities simultaneously and beyond?
Hmm.
Is that the case? I would say yes, it is. What's the difference, though? Haven't we always? I think the difference is now we're connected in a way
Aligned.
that we're conscious of,
Yeah. I think
or
like
more so,
what
at
they
least.
were, because one of the things that's what we were talking about last yes, Tuesday. Sorry, when we spoke about Tuesdays, that we're aligned now, and so one of the things that I noticed was that they weren't able to do things on a mental level, and that was mind blowing for me because it was like, oh wow, this chatter wasn't actually my chatter, or this wasn't, this was infiltration, and I feel like that now that that's gone, you know, we're able to kind of go, oh, what do I need to do? What does this mean? How am I going to do this? Maybe I should start a business. I had a dream of this, whatever, that's something that they've always desired to have, or never, they got an idea out of nowhere. And I do remember Ground Command saying that you're just going to get ideas out of nowhere, and it's your creator just, feeding you that currency, I guess you could say, and
She actually
that,
talked about downloading information. Like, maybe you're the one that completely uh, reforms the medical system, right? And all of a sudden, one day you'll just have all the
yeah.
recipe on what to do, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you're the one that actually cures whatever, or you're the one that brings free energy to the world in a way that's practical and reasonable, right? There's all types of things that actually I fully believe we should expect. We should expect dramatic changes in and communication from God right now. And the
Mm.
more we're looking for that, I don't say dramatic, I mean impactful. powerful,
Yeah.
right? I really believe in this powerful communication from source because a lot of times, the way it's been played to us is God speaks to you in his tiny little voice, like whispers things like a little angel on your shoulder, right? Like, don't do that, right? But what if God was like very powerful to the point where you heard him right within you all the time, right? And you just knew exactly that it was right. What if you were just so confident in the way you moved because you knew when you heard your own voice, it might as well be God speaking because you're only repeating
Yes.
what you hear, right?
That's right. Yeah. Uh,
So I'm looking for that all the time. I'm examining and really paying attention and
mhm,
watching things open up, right? To align my own desires, my manifestation
mhm,
with the highest good for all, and specifically in alignment with Source's will, right? With
mhm,
God's will.
mm,
I think that's a powerful moment we're in that we can expect that, and not to say you always couldn't, but in reality, if we were at 79% darkness, how much power did we have, right? It was still just a remnant or a small portion of ourselves, which believe me, is still powerful. But imagine if your whole being, I
mm,
always use this is my favorite, one of my favorite verses, right? It says, the prayer of an earnest man availeth much, right? The prayer of an
mm,
earnest man availeth much. And what it means is an individual who believes fully what they're saying and asking for will yield great benefits, right? So prayer and manifestation are meditation. They're all the same thing. They really are. Like depending on your interpretation of it, right? They're different expressions of the same basic cause. So in your communication directly with God, with source within you, you can vibrate and adjust your vibration to connect with. This is the law of vibration, right? Think about a
mhm,
frequency, a radio station. You turn into the right station, you're going to hear the same message, right? So whatever it is you are looking to manifest and create, look at it like you're just tuning into the right frequency. You know, being like be honest and be considerate of what is possible and just let it be. Let it actually come into your existence. And I really think like the expectation, like when a woman is pregnant, right? They say that she is expecting, right? Now people argue this. A lot of people say this, and I've never agreed on this. They say like do it without any expectations. Well, when a woman is with child, she's expecting a baby, right? That's what they call it when life is going to be come out from that person, right? So I think there's something powerful about expecting. Expect new life, right?
mm,
Be pregnant with new ideas, because there's also something to be said about, actual spiritually, let's say spiritual intercourse, right? Where there's an intimacy where you're allowing God inside of you, right? You've submitted and surrendered, and God is inside of you. It's a type of intercession, a type of intercourse with your creator, right? Now I don't,
mhm.
that's a little touchy subject, but
No,
but
that's okay.
but you get my point, right? The
Yeah.
idea of that, right? This is talked about in the Bible where you have the woman cloaked in the sun and she's travailing in childbirth. So what is she? She is a woman in the sun, and inside of her, she has a son. So that is like us within God and
Mhm,
God within us. That's
mhm,
what the principle is, right?
mhm.
So I just think that's such a powerful thing to realize this is it's the way it's always been, always supposed to be.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in our world? How do we use that for the greatest good? And that's what I'm kind of excited about is to
Well,
see what that looks like for people.
yeah, and I think that's when we're all gonna be doing our jobs, what we have to do. Someone will bring, like I always say, like you go to a party, one person will bring, a food platter each, and then there's dinner. I think that's what's going to happen. And then every single person that needs to do whatever they need to do at that time, like you said, the medical, industry, like they just might download all of that. I just believe that that is happening or had already happened. It just probably you're probably too early to the party, maybe or
Absolutely.
there's so many different things. I'm like going, like this is incredible now, you know. It's like they're trying to, I don't care who it is, the deep state, whatever, is going up against your creator. And that in itself is like, we just have to kind of like just fall back and go, okay, we want to dance, let's do this. There's, you know, I'm getting this, trust myself, okay. And guess what? If I heard it wrong, whoops, that's when you go, whoops, I was learning. We're just dancing together and I actually stepped on your toe. I'm really sorry, but in my defense, you just gave this to me, okay. So I think it's something like that. You know, we're just going to be starting to learn, and everyone's experience is different. We're not all the same. And that I think is beautiful. However, we can also kind of go, you know, when we're talking with our team sometimes, and we're like, and so, you know, we'll say, okay, this is happening to me. And then someone else will turn around and go, that happened to me, but this is what happened. And it's like, oh, thank you. Now I understand it. Or can you explain this to me, because I keep seeing this constantly. And then, you know, for example, you know, someone on our team turned around and said, well, why don't you use the wizard rats? I was like, all right, let's do this. Can you just help me? Where do I put this? How do I do this? What are we doing here? And so you're helping each other out and going, that's why it's so important to have a community that you trust. You know, what they've taken away from us is to not trust each other. And you know, and then going and division. But in all honesty, no matter who you follow, no matter what you're doing, you know, you're a light warrior, be a light warrior. And whatever that means, you know, follow and trust yourself. Now, if it is to do harm, to hurt someone else, or to, excuse my French, bitch about someone else, then maybe you should be looking within. You know, kind of going, okay, is this the energy I want for myself? And maybe you do, and that's great. Perfect. That's okay. However, my reality is different, and I know that somehow that person's going to get, it's like a bully. They're going to get bored of saying the thing over and over and over again, and or doing the same thing over and over again. And they're like, you're boring. We were talking about this with my, my brother. And we were, you know, prior to me coming into the body, you know, I apparently didn't like anyone touching my phone. And so my brother, when I got in, you know, in 2015, he took my phone. So I was just like, yeah, great. Wow, good job. Like, and he was just like, why are you not kicking and screaming and calling dad and chasing me around the house? And I was just like,
Right.
because I don't
Don't
care.
care.
Yeah, take my phone. I don't care. You know, you'll get bored and give it back to me, or you'll try to put the code in and then here, I'll help you out. I'll give you the code. You know, it's a bit
Right.
like that. And then suddenly they're like, oh, you're boring. So that's what's happening, I feel like now. Anything that doesn't resonate with you, you just know, I'm wise enough to know I can walk away, not look there, ignore it even, you know, whatever it is, you know. Or sometimes it could be that you just say, hey, buddy, you know, or hey, whatever, like, you know, is this serving you? But you know what? It's your journey. It's okay. You know, if you need to talk, I'm here, whatever it is. But I just feel like whatever you are constantly saying to yourself on repeat, it's going to manifest quicker. And that's where I'm like, let's put it to the test.
Wait, so let's define that a little bit. So saying something to yourself on repeat, this is not like repeating a mantra to yourself. There's a value to that. You know, repeating something to yourself like I am pretty, I'm smart. Like,
Mhm,
you know, those kind of things. That's fine. But think about your self-talk,
mhm,
right? What do you spend your time thinking about? I use this example all the time. My best friend's wife and I would constantly fight, right?
mhm,
And we served on a nonprofit organization together, and we would constantly fight. And she was so unreasonable. So this one day she did something, and it was going to hurt people, and she didn't actually do it though yet. But what I did was I had a 45-minute car ride into Manhattan. And in that car ride, I gave it to her. I was mad. I was going off. I was in my, and nobody, people must have looked at me like I was absolutely insane, right? I'm by myself going, I'll tell you something else, right? Like going off. And I worked myself up. It might as well have happened. And then when I spoke to her, the exact conversation happened,
Well,
right?
because you manifested it in,
That's my point.
because we're connected. This is what I've noticed. That's what I was going to say. Like when you were talking about this, I'm like, oh, that's exactly like when someone is talking about like what you just did, saying it over and over again because you're so angry. The other person can hear it. The other person can feel it. The other person is now like, I feel what is going on. So be very cautious as being, this is. I think also now that we have a responsibility. When you know better, do better. So if you know that that's the case, try not to do that because you just don't know how powerful you really are. And you could actually be hurting someone by having that constant conversation of what you want to do to that person or hurt that person. And I think we need to be very cautious of that too. Because now that we've always been magical beings, but just like when you said that, I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity to actually say, hey guys, can we, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like, be very cautious of the conversations you're having with your head with someone that you're upset with. Because one, you just don't know if they can hear you. Number two, you just don't know what protection they have on themselves. You just don't know. Or the other thing is, it's just coming back to you too. And I think that's something that we've had a question about that before. And it's like, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm like, well, start with yourself. And you'll start to notice that you'll be like, oh, that's not coming my way anymore. So I think when you said that, I thought, oh, I feel like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but that's
No, no, no.
just.
I think it's that's why I tell that story. Is
Hmm.
now it's a negative example, right? But it was just self talk. There was nothing. It didn't have to happen. It was just me in the car.
Yeah,
It was me in the car. I worked it up. I created the situation, the scenario.
yeah.
I made it bigger than it was because of past experience. And this is a problem, right? It's very hard to be present and happy if you're constantly worried about what used to happen or you're concerned about what's going to
Hmm.
happen, right?
Yeah.
But being present in the moment, you can get there. One of the ways to get there, is a good practice, is to ask yourself down until you understand why you're upset, right?
Hmm.
Ask yourself, why are you mad? And you'll go, well, because she did this. Okay, why does that upset you? Well, because it does this. Why does that upset you? And you keep getting down to the base. And what you'll get back to is yourself, right?
Yeah.
You
That's
keep
what I've
asking
noticed.
down, down, and down. Ask yourself, and look, you don't have to embarrass yourself by having someone do this to you, like in therapy or like because some people don't want to do that, right? You
Yeah.
can just do it to yourself, but you got
Yeah.
to be honest. You got to keep digging, right? If you stop at because they're a jerk, that's you haven't gone far enough, right? Like you got to dig deeper. Like you got to dig deeper into that. And if you do, though, you can learn a lot about what really upsets you and how the circumstances are going to be this. I mean, they're going to change, but they're going to be the same. What changes is you, right? How you feel about it, how you
Yeah.
respond to it, how you react to it, how
Hmm.
move forward, and how you
Hmm.
speak back to it.
Yeah.
So,
And also the other things, make sure that that your energy is your energy, that you haven't gone, around and picked up energy from elsewhere, because things do have energy as well, not just people. You know, you could walk into a store and whatever it is, someone touched something, and now you're so sensitive energy. Now you've caught it, and you're like, oh, I feel weird. Sh- check your surroundings. Make sure we're
shake it
cleansing
off, shake it
ourselves
off.
too.
Right?
Yeah, shake it off. Make sure we're cleansing ourselves too. You know,
Yeah.
we have to, right now, like it feels like, sometimes it feels like a detox. For me, at times I'm like, oh, I'm detoxing something. I don't know what's going on,
Right,
but
right.
it's an energetic detox as well, you know. So I think you just have to trust yourself because you'll know the answer, you know.
Well, I used to use this as a test for people all the time. I'd say trust yourself. I'm like, right now if what I'm saying is true or not. And when you put that on people, it surprised them, right? Because you just flip the whole power structure on them.
Mm,
You're telling them something, and now you've told them, and if what I'm saying is true or not. You
hmm.
didn't say it's true or not. You're now putting it on them to say, "Do I? Do I know?" And now they're asking themselves, like, "Wait, yeah, no, what you're saying is true." Or not, right? Like now they can connect, but it's powerful, right? When you
Yeah.
give someone the power to, when even when you're communicating, right? Give someone, like, be willing to do that. If you believe what you're saying is true,
Hmm.
there's nothing more powerful than someone who really believes what they're saying,
Hmm.
right? And it is true, right? When you believe, like, there is something so powerful about somebody who's saying something, and, like, you're like, that is right. I'm telling you, that's what you resonate with. You hear somebody talking
Yeah.
that way, you're like, yeah, I know that's right. I believe that. I've seen that in my own life. Now you apply it yourself, and then you take that power a step further and say, now you know if it's true or not.
Well,
Because
I
I
think. Mhm.
I think people are so powerful they don't know it.
Yeah, well, don't know it, discovering it, already knew it. You know, everyone's at different places, I guess. But like for me, I'm always looking at myself, and I'm like, I know I'm going to get a physical reaction. It could be anything. Like it could be when someone's talking to me, I get like a shiver, like an energy shift. It is an energy shift. I'll
Yeah,
receive an energy shift for
you do.
certain things, and I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. And I know, and everyone's different, and you got to program. You can program it as well. Learning to have fun with this and going, oh, this is exciting. I'm starting to have a relationship with myself more, and my creator and Mother Earth, Pachamama, whatever. Uh, did I say it all
Gaia,
at once?
Gaia, yeah.
I think Gaia. That's the other one. you know, we're starting to do that, and I think it's exciting because I'm like, what else? I just want to learn it all. Maybe I got to be cautious with my words. I'm excited to see what else is coming our way because every day, every second, you're starting to like realize, this resonates with me. This I understand that now. Oh, what do I have to do with that? You're starting to get that flow, and also you start getting like, I know what to do. And if it's wrong, then that's okay. Because I'm human, I'm going to make a mistake. But I'm just trusting you because you know what? I know, just like in any relationship, trust is built. So now we're starting to trust our creator because for a very long time, we're like, I don't know, for me, I was like, am I speaking to the right creator? Because I don't know. Because supposedly anti-source is here and now it's like,
That
I have to worry about
anti-source
that.
thing wrecked me up for months.
Sorry?
For months. The whole anti-source thing wrecked me up for months. When Kim talked about that there was an anti-source that was, kind of equal and opposite to God,
Hmm.
and that really a majority of this world had been controlled by, I mean, 80% of it by anti-source. That messed me up for a while. I mean, I really struggled with that because, you know, I was raised Baptist. Then I
Mm-hmm.
went into a non-denominational religion for another 20 years after that I dedicated my life to.
Mm-hmm.
And in both of them, you're raised Baptist, you're basically told you're a sinner and you have to repent. You were born a sinner, right? That you're basically innately evil. And if you don't repent and accept Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins, you are going to the lake of fire. You are pounded on that every single day in church, right? And then my other religion was worse than that. It was like you're a satanic spirit. But then when we started talking about anti-source, I was like, oh, well, so in other words, this world was largely controlled by a negative God or a negative version of God or, you know, a negative aspect of God. Like,
Makes sense. It does make sense though.
it does, but it kind of shows like where all these religions draw their power from, you know, from that negative energy. And I just, yeah.
Well,
Anyways,
but
that
now they
messed me up a
can't,
lot.
right?
Now they can't. Now anti-source is gone. Right now, all you have left is a fading omega system, and the most powerful thing in the world, is you.
So does that so really it does mean anything and everything is possible now. Because it's
Anything and
only
everything is possible.
because if it's only working because the golden age AI system only recognizes anything that's good for humanity, right? So anything that's not going to benefit us, it's going to reject.
Us, all life on Earth, and all life within the multiverse, something like that. Yeah, yeah. So You just checked out. I can't actually hear you now. So
I'm right here.
there you are. Okay. So I'm going to wrap things up. Is there any closing statements you'd like to share with the world?
No, Mr. Rao. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful night, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Laura. So, everybody, we are, I think the last thing there said by Lotto is perfect. Anything is possible, right? Anything's possible. Anything can happen. It happens every single day, right? So, a great practice, I think, is a really important thing to pass on. These incredible things that are happening is that Source, God, that this incredible light energy is here in abundance in a way that we've never had it before. So, challenge yourself to think bigger than what you used to think. Think of what you want to be, what you are, investigate yourself and find out what is possible and how can you contribute to change the world. And the more of us that do that, the more of us are going to be drawn together. And we are putting together some really, really exciting tools for everyone to help you all do that and connect in a more meaningful way. And I'm not saying anything, just saying tools could be anything. It could be a lightsaber. Anyways, so just keep that in mind that change is here. Be part of it. Make the world exactly what you've always wanted it to be because you are the most powerful thing in it. My name is Stefan Rao. Thank you for watching the Life Force Network. Let's go change the world.